Hi, I'm Chris Hearn, the CEO and co-founder of Mercantile Capital Corporation, and it's been a while since we've released one of these video blogs. So welcome back, thanks for watching. At the end of this, when I finish talking actually, we're actually going to show you about 8 minutes of my testimony that I did a couple weeks ago in front of the U.S. Senate Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. Now, we've only got my sections in there. And I promise we didn't do an NBC News, edit job, unfortunately, like that terrible scenario. And if you want to watch, by the way, the whole thing, there'll be a link below that you can go ahead and do that. So we just wanted to show you me on camera, what I said, when I said it, etc. Part of the reason we want to do this, actually, is we've had a tremendous amount of people who've requested that they see the video. They weren't able to see it during the day when it ran, and also because unfortunately, for some crazy reason, apparently what I said is tremendously radical. We've got a whole group of people out there, some factions, I guess, in the small business lending community, who have a real problem with my suggested solutions, which I was asked to come there and propose. I'm not going to go over it all with you right now, but I guess suffice to say, the more of a threat you are, perhaps, to some people, the bigger the lies they'll tell about you or the misrepresentations they'll say. So you need to watch it for yourself. If you want to watch the whole thing, knock yourself out, go for it. We're going to give you the link. If you just want to watch me and what I said, great. We're also going to give you the link to the written testimony. So again, it was a real honor and privilege for me to be there. I hope we can make some change with some of the solutions that I suggested. And thanks again for watching this. Enjoy it. Hope you like it as much as I did. Take care.
Mr. Hearn.
Good morning, Chairmanwoman. I would like to share a few ideas on how the subsidy for the SBA 504 loan program can be reduced and ultimately eliminated. In these challenging economic times, when budgets are shrinking and the American people are demanding that Washington spend less, I believe that efforts to reduce or even eliminate the subsidy for the 504 is the best way to ensure its long-term strength and effectiveness. And let me be clear, we want 504 to become zero subsidy again. One of the most effective ways to reduce the subsidy is to incentivize CDCs to actively pursue recoveries on their 504s. Billions in unnecessary losses on the 504 program are helping drive up the subsidy rate. Recent charge-offs, as we've already spoken about this morning, reported by SBA reveal that during the last 3 fiscal years, SBA's walked away from nearly $2 billion in the 504 program alone and even more in other SBA loan programs. We have the ability to make a substantial impact on these losses without requiring any additional taxpayer funds. Let CDCs aid small businesses while dramatically improving 504 recoveries. This will reduce the need for a subsidy and strengthen the program. Given the opportunity to cover costs and share in the recovery dollars, this will create a win-win-win scenario. SBA will benefit from increased recovery dollars at zero cost to taxpayers. CDCs will benefit from minimizing the losses, which in turn reduces the subsidy requirement. And in the end, borrowers continue to benefit from one of the finest small business capital access programs available. I would also recommend extending the 504 loan refinance program and the first mortgage lien pool program by at least 1 year. Thanks to the efforts of this committee, as part of the Jobs Bill of 2010, they were both unfortunately subjected to bureaucratic delays, nearly 14 months in the case of 504 and nearly 19 months in the case of FMLP. The reason for extending these two programs is that they will bring down the subsidy rate because both charge higher fees to borrowers to offset future losses, 16.55 additional basis points for refi and 74.4 basis points for FMLP. I believe these fees are grossly overstated and will produce excess fees to help bring down the subsidies in the future. To let these programs expire prematurely as they are gaining momentum would be unwise and irresponsible. In summary, we need to empower CDCs to maximize recoveries and extend 2 successful 504 loan programs that this committee created less than 2 years ago, but have yet to get out of the starting gate. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you. Well, this is going to be a very interesting debate between the Chamber of Commerce on one side, Mr. Wilkinson on another, and you arguing for the opposite position. And I'm going to ask you how Mercantile Capital makes its profits and how your company operates. Mr. Wilkinson, I'm going to ask you to respond to Mr. Hearn. And why do you think he's wrong, or do you because you testified completely opposite. You support the subsidies, he wants to get rid of them. And he thinks the program can work without the subsidies. So what do you want to say about that?
First, I would say he was commenting on the 504 program from his perspective. And I think he was looking for a path to get to a zero. And, you know, in the past, we have had a zero subsidy in the 7A program as well.
So you agree with him that we could get to a zero subsidy?
At an appropriate time. And as we had in our written testimony, when we had the funding from the Jobs Act and the Recovery Act, and we reduced the cost to to borrowers in the program and increase the guarantees, we saw our loan volume go up dramatically. When we ran out of those fundings, we saw our loan volume drop dramatically. And in fact, our current fiscal year volume is already below, about 10% below fiscal year 2010.
So how precipitously did it drop without the reduction in fees? Go ahead. I think this chart, I don't know if you have...
I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you don't have access to these charts, but go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead, just repeat what you said, that the loan volume...
Loan volume is in fiscal year 2012 that has the same fee structure today that we had in 2010. We're running about 10% behind fiscal year 2010. So any further increase in fees today would likely cause that loan volume to drop even further, which is not something we want to do, given this really is small businesses' only access to long-term capital.
And so, Mr. Hearn, tell me again why you want to increase the fees?
I think it's not sustainable long-term for these programs to operate. I'm sorry. With a subsidy. And the fact is, in the recent history, we've operated at a zero subsidy, and you have two programs, specifically the 504 refi and the FMLP program, that are set to expire this September, both of which are meeting tremendous demand in the marketplace.
Well, if Senator Snow were here, she could put back up her chart that when the rate of no subsidy, when it was zero, the default rate was the highest. And I'm not sure we want to have a high default rate. I don't know if they had, if it was related.
I don't.
Yeah, because it was a default rate that is what is part of the subsidy now is including the default rate made in the years where the program was operating with fees that paid for it. Now, I don't know if there's a
Can we put
cause and effect. But getting back to it, you think that we should just charge the small businesses the fees? You think that the loan volume will stay up? And does your company make more or less money or the same when the fees are low or high?
It makes the same. It doesn't
amount,
matter.
so it doesn't matter.
The fact of the matter is we have data that shows that refis and FMLP are both meeting demands in the marketplace, even though they have additional fees above the statutory limit of the 9375 basis points. And to the default point, 504s have averaged historically just under 2% default rate before the Great Recession hit about 3 years ago. So I'm not really sure what the data that we were referring to a few moments ago. But I don't see it as a... I think it's easy to at one point see it as a tax on small business.
So the default rate of the program is very low.
Yes.
The default rate is very low.
Yes.
But you just object to the low fees. You want the fees to be higher and the guarantee rate to be lower.
I would love to have no fees, but the reality is, in the world we live in, we have to be responsible. And I think this is such a tremendous loan program that's meeting the needs and is so far superior to ordinary commercial financing out there right now that I've seen it with my own eyes. I have the data that backs it up. It's in my written testimony. These are two programs that need to be extended in the 504 is really carrying a lot of the commercial banking loans out there right now. And so, yeah, I don't see it as something that's going to turn people away.
All right, I'm going to give you a 1 minute each to wrap up, and starting with you, Ridgely, or 30 seconds to wrap up. And I'm sorry for the delay and the tight time frame, but I've got something, and Senator Snow's not coming back. Mr. Hearn?
Well, I would just say again, if subsidies are a concern, there's at least three things that we can do to bring the subsidy rates down. I think it's just responsible for the SBA to empower CDCs who are local experts for the SBA and who are involved and can be involved early in the process as opposed to waiting until the end when Treasury gets involved far too late in the process. That's a very simple thing, and I would urge the committee to consider a pilot program to let CDCs participate in that. The second thing I would say is I really feel we need to extend the 504 refinance program. These are better performing loans than even regular 504s in many cases, and if you review my written testimony, you'll see why I make that argument. The FMLP is basically the SBA has assumed a preferential risk in this situation while creating a secondary market in this program. It's the only market that is actually meeting the needs of special purpose commercial properties out there, and has shown great strides since both of these programs have gotten away with some of the delays that they had when they first were launched. So I would urge the committee to consider both of these programs. Thank you.
Thank you.